All right, everybody, welcome back to Sam's Army episode. Oh, well, match week one episode is what we're going with at this point. We will be talking headline, the one and only headline this week, Mauricio Pochettino to USMNT. Not quite official. It's almost over the line, but we'll give our thoughts on that since it dropped right after the last episode. Then we'll hit Premier League, talk about the first opening match day that was, and then hit, of course, well, actually, we're going to switch up the pod a little bit. We're going to do halftime with a quick weekly what if, round the world with USMNT watch, and hit it and quit it minute, and stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets, and of course, everybody's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now, time to welcome in this week's panel of beauties. Really need no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. So first up, Mr. Mitchell Goulet, aka Overtime Mitch. Any thoughts on the fact that you're going to die on January 17th, 2025?
I asked him if he had any appointments earlier, and he said no, they were all booked up. So, yeah, folks, I got a DM from a account without a profile picture that said I was going to die on that date that Sam mentioned, and so I guess say your goodbyes to me before then. I'm not going to be able to see Arsenal win the league, which is a little upsetting, but hopefully we'll be in top position by Christmas.
Now, you've never interacted with this person
Nope.
at all. They
Doesn't
just
follow me or anything. Just kind of out of the blue. This is the genre of DMs that I get though. Like I understand that hot women on the internet get crazy DMs. These are the kind of crazy DMs that I get. So comes with the territory.
yeah, okay, you're used to it.
Yeah.
Water off your back. Also, we got Tyler Terrence, who is just back from LA, actually, a red eye followed by a 6 hour nap, which really 6 hours is not a nap. But how are the vibes out in LA? This is a game you called Club America and Colorado Rapids, two teams that are not actually based in LA. You went out to LA to call this game. What were the vibes like for that game?
It was so cool. Like, I mean, Club America just took over Carson, California. So I think I mentioned it either a week ago or 2 weeks ago on the pod, like how they changed the rule with Liga MX teams because their biggest gripe last year in the first edition of the tournament was like they're constantly on the road. None of these games take place in Mexico. They only take place in the United States and in Canada for, I don't want to call them obvious reasons, but it just becomes an entirely different proposition and just there's a lot of things that come into play if you're going to play games in Mexico. Anyway, this is all to say that the top four Mexican teams got to choose their home base. So Club America chose Southern California. They played their first knockout round game because they got a bye in group stages for being the champions last year. They played their first one at Snapdragon in San Diego, and then they played the next two at Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, the home of the Galaxy. And we rolled in 3 hours before kickoff, and there were 5,000 Club America fans who are already tailgating and just getting well lubricated for the affair and sold out crowd. Like it just felt like you were in Mexico City for a night, and Colorado within the United States, like on the road and somehow grinded out a result against, the most expensive team that exists within North America. It was maybe outside of Inter Miami, but it was so freaking cool. And it was just a wild display of smash and grab, get into penalties, Zach Steffen making the penalty, and it was kind of confusing as to whether or not he was gonna take the penalty. He took it before Lala Abubakar, their center back. So there was just there were a lot of different storylines that went into it. But congratulations to the Rapids. I mean, just like unreal the fact that they've gotten to this point. Last year they had 3 wins to their name, bounced in the group stage of this competition, destitute, the crunky, ugly stepchild comparatively to Arsenal, in which they spend no money on. But apparently, you don't need to spend money to beat Club America in Leagues Cup. So, congrats to the Pids.
Who knew? Who knew? That's right. Congrats to the Pids. Congrats to Keegan Rosenberry, and all the other guys out there. Listen, we'll get back to Leeds Cup later. We'll give you 59 seconds thereabouts to get into it. But for now, we'll head to hot topics or hot topic actually. Mauricio Pochettino. So we've been waiting on this news. Who's going to be the USMNT coach moving forward? Is it going to be sort of an MLS guy? Is it going to be like a foreign guy? Is it going to be somebody just big name? Are they going to go sort of out of left field? Oh, Mauricio Pochettino. I mean, I don't even have to say what I think about this. He's probably my favorite coach of all time, at least on a team that has coached one of my teams. So I'm ecstatic about this, move. again, this is all coming with an asterisk. It's not officially official. It's just sort of almost official. But anyway, Tyler, why don't you go first? What are your thoughts here? Yes or no?
Hard yes. We should clarify that the deal is not 100% done yet and over the line. He has agreed in terms, but sorting out the severance package from Chelsea is the biggest thing that's kind of the issue right now and why he hasn't signed the dotted line yet. So just in case this falls apart, we're not breaking the fact that he signed. It's just simply that everything is agreed upon in principle, and they're trying to figure out, compensation and things like that. And, we saw the Canadian men's national team get some money from Canadian MLS owners, and that's why he's called the MLS Canadian men's national team head coach. So maybe we're headed towards something like that to try to financially make sure that Poch can keep himself decked out in Gucci and whatever other designer stuff that he likes to wear. But I don't know how you can not be excited about this. We have been clamoring for a world-class coach for years now. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that he's the first real coach that we've had. That would do a lot of injustice to the likes of Bob Bradley, to the likes of Bruce Arena, but he is the most accomplished club coach we have ever had. Borja Milutinovic, going back to what he was able to accomplish, which was on the international scene, dating back to those early U.S. men's national teams in the early 90s to late 90s. But development of young players, being able to quote unquote deal with big egos. I mean, like, he wasn't granted the best hand at PSG, and he likes to implement a really high intensity style. Why you would hire Pochettino for Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, I'll never know. But nothing at Chelsea was his fault. I don't think it was. I don't think that that's a sort of like black mark against his resume. But for me, this is as good as we can do outside of Jurgen Klopp, in my opinion, in terms of coaches who are available right now. What he did with Southampton, getting them the highest finish and most amount of points in Southampton's Premier League history when he took over, before he took over for Spurs, getting them to a Champions League final, and doing it while, everything was stacked against them, beating Manchester City, beating Ajax, and being a team that a lot of people really didn't even expect to get out of the group stage of that competition, let alone get to a final. So I don't know how you cannot be excited about this. I mean, like, he's probably not going to last more than 2 years, but we need somebody, like Tyler Adams said, to come in, be ruthless, and to put his stamp on this federation. And I don't know who else you can look to in terms of who's available right now to do that other than Mauricio Pochettino. I'm fired up. It's definitely got my nipples tingling.
Oh, big time, big time, big time. I mean, Tommy was telling that story about who was involved with that. He was texting us about Mauricio Pochettino basically just not taking any shit.
Yeah.
And so these guys, it's perfect, right? So that's what we need from a coach, from the team, what they need from him, what we need, you, me, Mitch, everybody that's listening here, fans, we needed somebody to get excited about. We needed that so badly, and we got it. So for me, very personally, like selfishly, I'm so happy from that aspect. And then from the team, he plays an aggressive style. He doesn't take shit. It just seems like he fits the mold of a coach that we just need. So I'm all for it.
Other thing too, I know before Mitch steps in, he loves the concept of national teams. Like when he took over at Spurs, I remember there were like a couple of articles that came out talking about like how he felt like one of his main duties, in addition to, winning trophies at Spurs, which is not something that anybody can really do, but in addition to that sort of like fairy tale concept, was helping develop players for the national team. He felt like that was one of his top goals, being in charge of Spurs, was getting the likes of Kyle Walker, Harry Kane, Danny Rose to like really pop, and being within the English system and helping develop players within a Premier League club and get them to go play for the federation at a really high level. So I love a guy who may not have international experience, but appreciates and is interested in the international scene. Because there are some coaches that I've talked to that don't like. I remember talking with Dean Smith ahead of a Charlotte game. He doesn't really like watch it. Like, I asked him like what he thought of the Euros. He goes, I don't really watch too much of it. He's like, I watch England, but like he's not sitting down to watch it. He doesn't love the concept of the international landscape. So like the fact that Poch is invested in the national team landscape, that to me in itself is enough reason to hire a guy who doesn't have any international experience.
Yeah, want to echo everything Tyler Terrans and Tyler Adams say. I think the welcomed change for us as fans and players is that Pochettino is not a friendly guy in the locker room. Obviously, he's going to be nice to the players, but he is not Greg Berhalter. In fact, he's pretty much the stark opposite of Berhalter into how he's going to manage his players and how he's going to interact with them. And again, want to echo everything that they said about, like, I think his style really fits how the US want to press and just get their legs out under him early and outrun teams and out effort teams. That's something that I think he can get the best out of our guys with. And I think the big name moves the needle for the casual fans as well. As much as we want to get in the weeds about it and, tactics and where he's been and what he's done, a name like that moves the needle. And that does show in attendance numbers, that shows in overall support for the team. And in 2 years, you're going to see the fruits of that come to fruition when we're playing for a World Cup. So I'm could not be more excited about this. This is good all the way around.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because we here on this podcast, everybody's listening to it right now. We're pretty sort of dyed in the wool hardcore fans. It's the casuals that he's going to bring, somebody like that. I know it's just a coach, right? And it can't be that much, but it really does. Like somebody with the international experience and sort of a foreign accent, I hate to say that, actually does sort of resonate with some fans. Okay, so we just got to get it over the line. Let's make that official. And the fact that Matt Crocker brought him here and their connections with Southampton, has this been in the works for a while? Maybe I don't know.
Let's give Matt Crocker credit where it's due, though. His last two hires, Emma Hayes, and now pending, but Pochettino.
Listen, rating. Who knew this?
He's back. He's back to neutral. He's back to neutral.
He's not even in the green yet for you. He's back to neutral.
He's back to. He hired Greg again. We can't. I'm not gonna forgive. I'm not gonna just automatically praise him for bringing in Pochettino after he effectively made the wrong decision as his first hire. That was all him. Jay Berhalter wasn't a part of that. That was strictly Matt Crocker, and he made a mistake on that. So, like in Starsky and Hutch, you just went up a notch in my book. That puts you at notch 1. Okay, that's how I feel about this.
All right. I say if we get this over the line and Pochettino officially becomes the coach, he's in the green for me, because I'm including Emma Hayes.
He is one iota in the green. Sure, absolutely. On the men's side, women's side, he's he knocked it out of the park.
I was putting those two together because, by the way, Emma Hayes just is amazing. I'm a huge Emma Hayes fan at this point.
Me too.
Okay, Premier League time. So we're done officially now with all of the games of match week 1. Unfortunately, Tottenham now has played, which, listen, we're back. Tottenham, we're so fucking back. 1-1 in a game. I didn't look at the XG. It was probably 8 to 0.4 or something. Actually, Leicester probably had a few higher than that. But anyway, the fact that Tottenham didn't win that game is it's perfect. It's the perfect start to this season. But that's not going to be the most notable game. So I want to ask you, Mitchell, what's the most notable game of the weekend here?
I don't know if notable is the right word for it. It's game week 1. I suppose they're
Interesting.
Interesting. I liked watching the City-Chelsea game because I liked drawing too many conclusions from it. The amount of space that Chelsea were given on the counter and just in general in that final third, I thought was really enticing for an Arsenal side to go up and put 3 against them. I thought Nicholas Jackson has had better games, but they have no shortage of depth to replace him if he really starts showing that those are his true colors. I thought the general sentiment around the league is that this is City's down year. And I feel like they showed it. They got the results, and as everybody kind of expected them to, but it was not nearly in the convincing fashion that we saw them get these results last year. So interesting is the word for it for that Chelsea City game.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, Chelsea, they made a good account of themselves out there.
They did. I think Chelsea are exactly, from that performance there, I think Chelsea are exactly where a lot of people expected them to be. I think they will get better throughout the season, and it's hard to underperform what they did last season. But I like Chelsea this year as a whole project. I think they finish fifth or sixth.
Okay. I still don't know what we're going to get from Chelsea. I feel like their ceiling and their floor is as big as anybody in the league. But
crazy. Their ceiling is 3rd. Their floor is 14th.
But that was a good performance.
Yeah.
All right. Most interesting result, Tyler Terrans. What are your thoughts here?
My initial thought went to how strong Brighton were.
Yeah.
Maybe not interesting, but just, we talked about teams that are going with the one or two teams that might threaten the normal status quo of teams challenging for top four. And I think Crystal Palace was sort of the large consensus amongst this really distinguished panel of soccer minds. But Brighton, I think, might throw their hat in the ring there, maybe, given how strong they were. I love a incredibly young coach and a guy who's 31, and me myself being 31. I don't know what sort of line I'm trying to draw here, but I just love the fact that this guy is my age and he's in charge of a Premier League team, and he's in charge of a 38-year-old James Milner. Like that to me, I just love that concept in general. So Brighton was definitely an interesting one, and then I'll tell you what, your Spurs, man, that was poor. That was poor.
Let's talk about it.
Finishing boots weren't exactly on. You guys should have scored 4 goals in the first half. I'd be lying if I said I didn't make a bet on Dominic Solanke being the second goal scorer after the opening goal from Pedro Porro.
Yep.
But Mitch put it in the group chat, meaning like James Madison is the only like adult in the middle of the field. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, man, there's nobody to grab this group by the scruff of the neck while they're on the field from an attacking standpoint. I mean, Sonny wears the captain's armband, but like he's not incredibly vocal and he's not that guy, quote unquote. And once Madison came off, I was like, this team just looks lost right now, which is mildly concerning.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. It was I guess disappointing to see Madison come off when he did, but at the same time, I'm always worried about him getting hurt, because if he's hurt, oh boy, we're in a world of hurt.
Well, you can't play your season trying not to have James Madison get hurt.
First game or two, listen. I'm looking for silver linings here, or at least not silver linings.
That's not a silver game or two. You're just looking for an excuse already.
Yes, I'm finding. Listen, I can find excuses on anything. We just should have scored 4 in the first half, and this wouldn't be a discussion point. It was just a disappointing result. Listen, we're Tottenham. We'll get by that. We can swallow that, no problem. We eat those for breakfast. So we'll be back next week. It is disappointing. Just pray for Everton next week. Everton coming off of a tough loss to Brighton at home, and now they got to come up against a extra motivated Spurs. I just think it's maybe a bad spot for them, because we really should have scored 4-1 that first half. I mean, the team doesn't look bad. I'm not worried, I guess is the point where I'm trying to say here. I'm not worried.
You don't sound worried. Yeah, no, keep convincing yourself and me and everybody listening to the pod. You don't sound worried
keep
at all.
The word vomit going.
Yeah.
Dominic Solanke has to score some goals. I will say that. He's going to have to put some of those away at some point, but I think he will. He'll finish the season, as we said.
I'm glad I didn't take him in Fantasy Premier League. I was thinking about it. I chose Isak instead, but here we are.
Oh, looking good right now. Yes. So other couple games that just stood out. West Ham Villa was an interesting one. Villa going into West Ham and coming away at 2-1 winners. I didn't feel like I learned anything from that game. I think if you put a gun to my head, that's probably exactly the result I would have guessed would happen. But I guess we'll see how the season.
I think they're still trying. I think Villa's still trying to figure out what their best 11 is. Like we were talking about in the group text, like spent 47 million on Ian Maatson and he's a backup to Luca Digne. Like, and I know that there's transfer rumors swirling around him, but I'm just like, I don't really know what this team is about right now. They need a backup striker, because I think John Duran is probably going to leave. From everything that I've heard related to him, and he's just kind of a lunatic and everything he's done, and yeah, exactly. So like I just think that they're still trying to figure. I think you're right. Like they're still trying to figure out exactly who they are and what their best 11 is. And they spent all this money. They're sort of like Chelsea light in that regard. Like it's not as dire and not as like just sort of willy-nilly with the spending. They do have a plan, but I just don't think it's rendered itself out yet.
So I would jump to power rankings, where we would sort of discuss some more of the results and all that. It's too early to do power rankings. We can't do that quite yet. So a couple more games.
Can I pose a question in place of power rankings?
Sure. I was going to say we do a couple more games, because I want to talk about the United game. I want to talk about the Brentford Palace game. But Go ahead. What's your question?
So we've seen all 3 newly promoted teams play now. Can you power rank just the 3 newly promoteds?
That's interesting. So we haven't talked about the Southampton game. We haven't talked about the Ipswich game.
Let's do this after. Let's talk about those games and do this after.
Okay. So the Liverpool Ipswich. Ipswich came out. They came out on the front foot. They were they went for it. And I thought they looked good against a good Liverpool team. They just didn't have enough talent. They didn't have enough quality on the field. What I was thinking when I was watching that game is this feels like a team that is going to come out hard early in the season, and they're just going to get beaten down mentally, and they're not going to have it after a couple months, and they're probably going to pull like a Luton and just be way gone. We'll see. I mean, they look really good in that game, so that feels pretty harsh for me to say.
But they threw a pretty solid punch at obviously a Champions League side, and they fell flat at home. And that first home game is usually like a really good opportunity to try to grab points that you theoretically wouldn't grab come week 15 or 16.
Leicester Tottenham. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So to Mitch's question, I think Leicester, Southampton, Ipswich is how I feel after watching them. I think Southampton they're grinders, and as we saw, they just turned that into an absolute street fight, and I think that's going to bode well for them. I think Ipswich is the worst team out of the three.
I do not disagree. So we haven't talked about the Southampton game. That game, the big talking point there was the red cards, or the red card that Schär got, which was. Let's talk about it quickly. So it's one of those situations where
I hate it.
Leading up to it, by the way. So it was Burton Diaz and Schär. It was after the whistle. Schär went to pick the ball up, and Burton Diaz just sort of barged into him. And Schär got up, pushed Burton Diaz. Then they did the thing that soccer players always do. They kind of come together, look at each other, and then they both kind of do the little headbutt thing. And Burton Diaz falls down like he got shot in the face. And Schär's just standing there, and Schär gets a red card. Burton Diaz, I think he got a yellow card. We talked about this. I am okay with that being a red card for Schär for stupidity. Probably Burton Diaz probably should have got one as well. But I wouldn't give that as a red card. Personally, if I was a ref, I would not give that as a red card.
But you're saying you're okay with it. Why?
I'm okay with it because of the stupidity of you doing that. And when I said this,
knowing what the rule is and knowing that like, you can't use your head. Yeah.
There's two things that you basically take. You give up your power here, because basically if the player that you're doing the little head, do-si-do with, if that player is going to be a flopper, which Burton Diaz is, so that's number one. If that player flops, that's a problem. Number two, referee. If you got a referee who is just, I don't know, kind of not understanding what players do when they do this kind of thing, then the referee is at his, it's in his power to give you a red card. And basically those two things came together and fucked Schär and fucked Newcastle. And it's unfortunate, but you're stupid to put your head in that situation. And the stupidity of it is why I'm okay with it being a red card, even though I would not have given a red card for it.
Okay, fair. I'm caught in two minds about just about everything you say, but particularly this one, because as a player, I love a player that is willing to go chest to chest with somebody and get in somebody's face and do exactly what Schär did there. I don't
the headbutt. Once you get your head in
it's
there,
not a headbutt. Let's call it a meeting of the minds.
The head graze.
A meeting of the minds. Yeah. There you go. Okay.
It was borderline more romantic than it was a headbutt. But I think as referees, the interpretation of the rule cannot include absolutes like that, where there's head-to-head contact, absolute red card. You pay referees to use their discretion and make subjective decisions about what happens on the field. And very, very little of what happens on the field is black and white. A coming together of minds there is not black and white. There's a ton of gray area there. And if you're going to give a card for simulation for diving and acting on it, then like you're admitting that it wasn't as bad as maybe a red card offense could be. So I don't know. I don't think that should be a red. I'm comfortable with both players getting yellows. you change. But I do want to acknowledge the stupidity aspect of it. That's where I will fully endorse, like, you as a captain of that team. Cher's not the captain. Cher is the captain, right? I don't know.
Dan
As a
Burn.
veteran player on that team, you need to have the mind about you to not get sent off. So that's my two piece.
That's fair. I think that Burn Diaz didn't even get the yellow card for simulation. I think he got it for barging into Sharp to start the whole thing.
I would hope that he got it for that. I mean, Jesus, like what he did is way more reckless and way more dangerous than what Cher did.
Yeah, that's
now,
fair.
Well, how about this? Would you rather have the absolute B for a handball, where if the ball hits your hand at any point in time, it's a handball no matter what? Or would you rather have the absolute B for if any part of your head or any part of your hands touches another player's head, then, you know, it's an automatic red card? Which one would you rather have?
Because that's far more under your control as a player.
Yeah, agree with that, but also I hate absolutes, just like Mitch does.
Yeah.
But the handball thing, it can hit your hand and you're like not trying to do anything.
Of course, but it would take it. But like this gray area that we talk about, there's way more headaches over gray areas with the handball than there are gray areas with, you know, this head-to-head thing. And like these ruin games more than, at least with like the handball thing, you're allowing players to then decide what's going to happen, whether it be, you know, the penalty kick taker needing to convert or a keeper making a save. Like this is just, you know, and granted, like we saw it in Copa America, right? Like where we saw Tim Weah rush of blood to the head and he hits somebody on the back of the head and he ends up getting a red card. Whereas Christian Pulisic, he uses his head when he goes to fuck with people, where he puts his hands behind his back and goes in with his shoulder. And again, you're throwing your weight around and you're ultimately more likely to injure somebody doing that than you are doing anything lightly with your hands to somebody's face. But, you know, here we are, it's 2024 and none of the rules make any sense. We just need a clean slate, much like the Constitution. I think we just need to change. I just think somebody needs to rewrite something. It's been too long.
Full overhaul.
Yeah,
for both documents.
Yes, agreed.
I'm glad our political correspondent was the one to bring that up. It's funny that we're talking this much about Char. We haven't even talked about Mosquera. Do you want to talk about Mosquera right now? And
since he's finest, baby, he's got that dog in him. He's got that dog in him. That's what happens when you live in the greater Cincinnati area for about 7 months. You know, you just come out a villain.
How long you been there? How long you been there right now?
I've been here for 8 months, baby. I got that dog in me.
So I wasn't watching the Arsenal Wolves game live. I was the stupid one watching that Newcastle Southampton game. So I didn't really know what Mikey was texting about. Mikey was going wild on the group chat.
He fingered him in the butt.
Cool. Yeah. I watched the replays. The replays.
Yeah. You did watch the replays. I usually skip that part of the video. Yeah.
I did watch So for 2 incidents, not just one, Mosquera just out of his mind, just trying to get a red card. The first one was with Havertz. Havertz kind of pulled him down. He fell, but he was within his sort of, he knew what he was doing. He put his hand right on Havertz's neck, just like kind of a shove, choke.
Oh, but he was bracing himself falling down. So,
he's okay. And
I
you could see him watching what he was doing. You could just see it. They had a perfect angle. You could see him watching what he's doing. And then as soon as he did, it's like, oh, oops, he accidentally. Sorry about that choke. So that was the first one. And then there was a second one with Gabby Jesus, where I don't know what was going through Mosquera's mind on this one. But, you know, Gabby Jesus,
trying to cop a feel.
I mean, he got a whole handful there. 2 fingers full maybe. But Gabby Jesus was bent over doing something with his shin guards or something. And Mosquera just grabs his butt. And
tries to move the ball simultaneously. Like if he wasn't just grabbing his butt for grabbing the butt's sake, I think he was looking for leverage, pun very much intended, to try to, you know, stop him from playing the ball, I think is what he was trying to do.
So they had a free kick and and Jesus was benched down tying his shoe.
Yeah.
And Mosquera was trying to get him out of the way so they could take the free kick quickly.
Yes.
And he had heard quite a lot about those BBL's Brazilian butt lifts, and he said Jesus has a nice looking one as well.
Let's see what that's all about.
To be fair, there was way more than just like a feel. It looked like he was aiming for penetration. Like there was
if you're trying to the finger. Someone.
Yeah, and like this is the part of the rule book that like we need to get clear here. Like if you're going to grab any part of someone's genitalia that otherwise would warrant buying them dinner first before doing that, that should be a red card. Yeah. Whatever Fabian Cher did is way less invasive and intrusive than what Yerson Mosquera did. So why are we going to allow a gentle meeting of the minds and a head graze, but we are going to allow something that I typically leave for like a 7th or 8th date?
That's a fair question. it wrapped in a weird way, but it's a fair question. I think that Mosquera deserved a red card for the choke. I think it was kind of a misdemeanor. It was misdemeanor sexual assault. I don't know if there is misdemeanor sexual assault, but like that was over the line. It wasn't as bad. And this is going to sound like extra bad, but like he was not as
he didn't consent.
Well, listen, there was no consent in either of the situations I'm talking about. But do you remember the Edinson Cavani and it was a Chilean player in the Copa America several years ago, where this guy just took his, I don't know if it was thumb or his finger, but he just went straight up in Edinson Cavani's butthole. Like he was just getting up in there. That was really bad. This was not quite that bad, but it was bad enough. This is bad. Like he should have been gone. Like Mosquera, I can't believe he finished the game without any red cards. That was insane to me.
What do we label that as though? Like Mitch being the refereeing expert, like is it endangering a player? Like are you endangering him?
Which one? The choke or the pull?
The reach around.
In the book it would be UB, unsporting behavior, but
unsporting behavior.
Yes,
unsporting
but
behavior.
That's only a yellow card offense. He didn't see yellow for either of those. The choke or the little reach around.
But I'm saying if you were going to give red for the reach around,
for
what would you file that under?
Violent conduct.
Yep. Is it because his finger was dry?
Yeah, there was nothing. There was no spit. There was no lube on it. I think
that's what I'm saying. Like
looking to cause harm. Yeah.
Yes.
Now we're getting a little too into your dating preferences here, Tyler.
Excuse me. I'm a taken man. All right. Talk to Mitchell over here. He's the only single one in this podcast.
Listen, we were going to get an update.
And he lives in New York. I mean, that's like, you can get that on a Tuesday night. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
$15. All right. We've now talked about all these situations, so we can move on, mercifully. So the weekend preview. We got a whole nother slate of games coming up here. Before we get to, actually, no, let's do FPL first. Let's do FPL leaderboard. So I think we all scored in the 50s this week. Am I right?
Painfully average this group.
Yeah. So average in the Sam's Army Podcast League was 50. I got 54, and I will say that was with two players who didn't play at all, Harvey Elliott and
what are you doing?
I don't know. And Mark Gahey. So listen, I'm gonna come back stronger. I'm gonna learn from this and be better. We were in the 50s, so we're all sort of in the same echelon.
What did Mikey and Tommy have?
That is a great question. It is not very good. So I'm in 354th place. Oh, okay, here we go. I'd have to find them. I don't see them near the top. I'll give some shout outs.
Well, we should have rankings amongst the five of us for moving forward.
We absolutely should. We'll get those. We'll get those. But I got to give a shout out to the people who are at the top here. So Harrison York, who I've been going back and forth with on other matters. McAllister's Deli. I don't know what McAllister's Deli is. I assume it's a Syracuse thing. Harrison York is in first place with 87 points. Well done, Harrison. We got Riley Spielman, Big Wenger, 84 points. Flip FC, Alex Shushko, 83 points. Unbeatable Reds, Mohsin Salaji, and Christoph yesterday is tied with 81 points, fourth place. Van Dyke Delights. So there's your top five.
Bro, who makes Xerxes their captain week one? Like, he's not going to start. That's an insane. Like, that's reckless. Who does that?
Who captained Xerxes?
Somebody? I saw people captaining Xerxes. I don't know.
I saw like the top point scoring team was Xerxes
from this week. Yeah, and I'm just like, what made you do that? Why would you do that as opposed to Captain Mohamed Salah or somebody or Erling Haaland? Like what? Who does that?
I had a Haaland captain.
My goal is to finish within the top 20% without Erling Haaland being on my team. That's my goal. I refuse to buy him.
Okay, that's interesting because his first season in the Prem, I basically took the same strategy.
Yeah.
And I got absolutely murdered because of it. I think you might be on the same path. So if you are able to do that, I will give you
I'm recreating Haaland on the aggregate.
All right. Weekend preview. What are we looking at this week? There's some interesting games. We actually quickly, Manchester United. We got to at least give them a little credit. They avoided that nightmare scenario, which we talked about last week, where if they had dropped points or, God forbid, lost to Fulham, Didn't we talk about sort of their upcoming schedule as being kind of nightmarish? So they listen, that game was not pretty.
They're at Brighton this weekend. Yeah.
They got it done. They got it done. They got the 3 points, which that's a big win. I think it's sort of a quiet big win for them. Now we'll go to this week, which Brighton United is, I would say probably one of the
It's up there.
Yeah,
It's
right.
more
It's got to be.
exciting
So the couple ones that stand out: Aston Villa hosting Arsenal, which London derby. If you talk to somebody over NBC, listen, love you NBC. We're gonna.
I was shocked that they missed like that. They never.
They
miss.
don't. Right.
Like,
That feels like a Fox mistake. That feels like something Fox would pull. Not NBC. That's not an NBC move. So they're gonna have to up their game a little bit. We gave them some shit for that one. But Aston Villa hosting Arsenal is a arguably the biggest game of the week. There's Liverpool Brentford. That's not so good. Brighton United, Tottenham Everton, not so good. The other one that I wanted to point out, Palace and West Ham. So these are two teams that are kind of came into the season with high expectations. The way that West Ham was spending, the way Crystal Palace finished the last season, and they both lost in game week 1. So I will put those 3 games out there: Brighton hosting United, Palace hosting West Ham, and Villa hosting Arsenal. Since Arsenal is actually one of the games, I'll go to you first, Tyler. Which game are you most interested in this weekend?
Brighton United, for sure. Like I know that the Villa Arsenal game is going to be great, but I'm most interested in the Brighton United game and seeing how Herzl deals with United and approaches the game. I mean, I'm pretty confident they're not going to change anything. But then, like you said, I think that United flew under the radar getting that win and how big that was for the psyche of the group. But if they lay an egg against Brighton, then I think it would confirm a lot of things that many of us have been thinking, which is this team is still unstable from a culture and from a leadership standpoint, which I still believe that they are, right? I genuinely adore what Bruno Fernandes accomplishes on a football field most weekends. I think that he's incredible in the way that he moves about the field, his ability to strike a ball, his vision, his IQ, but he is just not the captain of Manchester United. I'm sorry. And until they figure out who the de facto leader of this group is, I don't really care who's in charge from a coaching standpoint. I think that they're going to find themselves in some really difficult spots because Ten Hag, for my money, only can do so much. So for that reason and a lot of others, Brighton and United is the most intriguing matchup to me.
So that you've been saying this about Bruno Fernandes for a long time. That's by far the nicest way you've ever said it in terms of your feelings.
Oh, no, he's a rat. But I
right?
do.
That usually you just leave it at that. Biggest rat in the league. That's what you usually say. You just had some pretty nice things there. I enjoyed that.
But
it's a good way to say it. He's undeniably talented. The man can play football at a level that very few other people in this Premier League can. But separate from that, he's a rat. He's a little rodent boy.
The only person who gets that rat label more than Bruno is Suarez. And Suarez knows one of the greatest strikers that we've seen in the past 20 years. So, yes, we can give this label, we say this tongue-in-cheek, giving it to players that we know are just elite at what they do, but personality-wise, and they sometimes lose their head, and they're just... Suarez has never given the captain's armband, I don't think, in his time at Liverpool or Barcelona or Atletico or Gremio or Inter Miami. He's not a captain. He's just that guy who goes out there and scores a lot of goals. Bruno is a guy who's going to go out there and win you games, but he's not a captain.
Okay, that's fair. I actually don't know. You said who is going to take that team? So there's Maguire, who was the captain. There's Bruno, who's I think currently Casemiro is in the mix as well. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for it. Okay, I'm with you on Brighton United, just in terms of the interest level. I'm most interested in that game, unfortunately.
Wolves Chelsea at Wolves is a good game too.
Those two always play good games, and now Neto sort of adds a new layer to that. Unfortunately, Brighton United is the early game, 6:30 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. for those of you on the West Coast, as Tyler found out all too.
Fuck me. For opening weekend, you guys texted. You were like, Tyler, thoughts 40 minutes in? I was literally drooling on myself, trying to stay awake for this game. It's one of those ones where I set my alarm and I turn it on, but I fall asleep 30 seconds into the game. It was never happening.
I mean, it wasn't really an exciting game either, so I'll give you a little bit of grace on that one.
Yep.
Okay, let's head to halftime. Now we'll pick up the pace a little bit here. We haven't talked about Premier League, so I felt like we had to sort of get into it a little bit. Now we're going to pick up the pace a little bit. Halftime this week is going to be weekly what if. So there was a lot of talk this week about the Premier League and whether they were going to disclose referees' affiliations. You know, the clubs that referees support. Apparently, like there was sort of miscommunication about what Premier League were talking about doing. They ended up disclosing the policy itself, but they didn't disclose what refs, you know, which teams each ref supports. So if they actually did that, though, if they just, I don't think they're going to, based on what we've heard so far, but if they did and basically said this ref is a fan of this team, you know, and that sort of thing, Mitch, what are your thoughts on that? You know, is this would that be what would happen, number one, and then number two, is it net positive, net negative?
That would be pouring gasoline on a very unimportant fire. I think people would talk about it and then microanalyze all these referees' fandoms every single time there was a call that went marginally one way or controversially another. I don't see a benefit in it apart from maybe like making it easier on whoever's scheduling the referees for these games every weekend. I think it's naive to think that you would have a referee that doesn't support a team and isn't a fan of the game as well as an official of the game. I don't see a reason to disclose that. Now, commentators, which you put in the outline, that's an interesting one. That I think has no direct impact on the ball on the field. And I think that would be an interesting one if before broadcast we were to say, oh, Tyler Terrence is on the call. And as we all know, he's a Liverpool fan. Like, I think that'd be fun. That'd be a little.
Fuck you, dude. No, it wouldn't.
Sure, it would.
No,
you'd get a little more shit online, but I'd enjoy it.
Well, like, I need more shit. I had somebody write a 500-word hit article on me, you know, because they hated the way that my voice
telling I was
sounded.
Gonna die.
January 17th.
That's a DM. That's a DM. Now every time somebody Googles my name, that's one of the first articles that pops up. All right, talk to me when you got some real problems.
Was this on a reputable site? The hit piece? I want to read it.
No, we've talked about it before. It was.
No, it's on Hudson River Blue. It's some like, you know, clickbait NYCFC fan.
I love that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna catch you off guard with this when we hung out, and you were like, no, I know exactly what article you're pulling.
Don't.
Oh wow, yeah, the first one, Tyler Terrence, please use your inside voice.
Like I need it to be released that I'm a fan of the Chicago Fire every time I go call a Fire game. I need that to happen. Don't need that. Don't need that. I mean, by the way, Arlo, during Leicester's run in the 15-16 season, he's a massive Leicester fan, and everybody knew that. Yeah, to be fair, every commentator gets killed no matter what for leaning more to one side than the other, particularly when it's a big game and your voice has to match and reach the levels of the crowd. So therefore, if you're watching a Wolves-Leicester game back in 2015-16, okay, and Leicester's at home, and Arlo is getting up for a Leicester Jamie Vardy banger because he has to match the decibels of the crowd in order for his voice to cut through, opposed to a silent King Power Stadium when Wolves scores, it's inherently going to sound like he's more excited about one comparatively to the other. It's never the case. It's simply what's required of you. For anybody who's tweeted at a commentator before thinking he hates your team, it's not true. Okay? Just throwing it out there.
Unless or until you get the EPL job and you're commentating about United versus Liverpool. In that case,
if Bruno Fernandes is still the captain, I will call him a rat on national television. I'm just telling you.
Love that. I'm going to hold you to that. Just like Solanke on my ass. All right, round the world time. Quick USMNT chatter. So there's some good and there's some bad. Let's do the good real quick. Haji Wright stays hot. 2 goals for Coventry this weekend. Josh Sargent also stays hot for Norwich City, although it sounds like he might be headed elsewhere, perhaps to Bournemouth in the Premier League. I guess we'll see on that. And then there's some other ones. Pulisic played well. Musa had a great assist in 8 minutes.
Pulisic playing in the number 10, playing centrally.
Yep. Oh, I really liked
I liked it.
there.
I liked it a
lot. He
lot.
floated out wide quite a bit. But it was very clear that he had that.
Let him go find
to
the
do
game.
so.
Give him the green light.
Yeah, go find your touches wherever they may come and put your imprint on the game however you can, because I think it's really, really myopic to keep him pigeonholed out on that wing and say, nope, ball's going to come to you when it comes to you. Go find the ball. That's a ball playing soccer player. Go. Yeah, I've really liked him playing in the middle of the park.
All the better. Yeah, if he's doing the same thing for AC Milan as we want him to do, I mean, that's a beautiful thing with Pochettino hovering over him, spraying some, fairy dust
He
on
was
him.
watching. I know he was watching that game.
Oh, for sure. By the way, I'm going to say this now because I meant to do it earlier. I put the Yerson Mosquera, was it a red card out there for the fans? 46% said that the choke on Havertz was a red card, and only 18% said the booty grab was, but that's because 57% said it was sexual assault. So that's not exactly a fair question.
Misdemeanor sexual assault.
Misdemeanor. Yeah, right. I don't even know what I'm talking about here. But so here, the reason I bring that back up, because I also put up who people think the starting number 9 should be for USMNT if we played a game tomorrow. And so I only had 4 options. Unfortunately, sorry to Brandon Vasquez, you didn't make the cut. But so the top 4 that I put in there: Haji Wright, Josh Sargent, both coming off goals this weekend, granted in the championship. Ricardo Pepi, and Fuller and Balogun. Those are your 4 options.
I don't like it, but it's Balogun.
Yeah.
64% of people said
I was part of that 64%. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the brand name right now. He's the brand name, and I don't know what it would take for him not to be that pick. Is it going to be bad performances by him in the national team?
Pepi would have to starting and banging in goals at the club level, as well as starting and scoring goals at the Champions League level.
But I think he's found a really good spot in that PSV side where he will sub on and he can provide late goals for them.
Yes.
I think he's really comfortable in that role for them. So I don't see that changing, but I would agree if public opinion needs to be swayed, it would be Pepi.
And maybe his role going into 26 is a super sub and a guy who offers a different look. Awesome. And we need more guys to fill roles in. What is your role going into 26?
Yep.
What is your job? If it's Pepi and your job is to come in for 30 minutes, for 15 minutes, and to just go poach and find the game and find a goal, then fine. But we need guys to have roles. I think that's a huge thing that Pochettino is going to have to sort out.
Fair enough. Pepi actually got the last 6% for Pepi on that vote. So 10%.
Is that reflective of starting versus coming off the bench?
Yeah, probably. I guess. I mean, it's also reflective of the fact that Haji Wright just scored 2 goals. Josh Sargent just scored a goal. And our fans, I love them. I'm one of them. We are the most reactive, fans in the world. And so
it's also indicative of the fact that he wasn't. It's indicative of the fact he didn't even go to the World Cup in 22. Nobody has seen him in a big time tournament have any success or even be there. So I think that has something to do with it as well.
Unless you, as a U.S. men's national team fan, are proactively watching PSV every weekend, you're unfamiliar with Ricardo Pepi from the past 2 years.
Yes.
Sucks, but I still like his game. I still like Pepi.
So do I.
Fair enough. We move on. So quickly on the bad USMNT chatter, we got to talk with Weston, McKennie, and especially Matt Turner. Okay. We got a 4-year-old on loose here. Please go downstairs, okay? Thank you. I paused. I think I paused, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Still. All right. Now on the negative side, Weston McKennie, who is still at Juve, was at least in the 18, did not play. Got to talk about what his situation is, and perhaps more importantly, Matt Turner, who did not even make the game day roster for Nottingham Forest. The window's still open. I haven't heard any chatter. It sounds like Weston McKennie's I'm going to stay at Juve. I'm going to make this work. He's already done that once. He made that work last season, and that worked out pretty well. Turner, he's got to go somewhere. I was hoping he was going to go somewhere this window. It sounds like people are sort of saying he's going to go in the winter. I don't know. Any thoughts from you guys on these situations?
He needs to move sooner rather than later. Our starting keeper cannot be sitting on the bench week in and week out.
Yeah, I guess we're all on the same page there. Pretty simple. I do still think he's our number one, though. I mean, like, even just based on what I'm seeing, do you guys think somebody's, I saw Horvath had I know that, listen, you can't make one mistake doesn't sort of totally change things, but Horvath had a horrible,
Yeah, that was a howler.
Horrible goal this week in the championship. I still think Turner's number one. Do you guys disagree? No. All right. There we go. Hit it and quit a minute time, or as we like to call it around here, the Golpelo and Déjalo Minuto with a Mr. Tyler Terrence. What do you got for us, big man?
So obviously the bilingual nature of the MLS Hit and Quit a Minute is because of Leagues Cup. While we are starting with 47 teams across MLS and Liga MX, we have dwindled it down to 4 and not a single Mexican team to be seen in the semifinals. That's right. Club America, who was the lone team carrying the Liga MX flag, was ousted by none other than the PIDs. That's right. The Colorado Rapids, as they've become to known. Up the PIDs has been the big saying as of late. Georgia Mihailovic and company. Zach Steffen, of all people, who's getting some really serious playing time, has been playing well for the Rapids. Was able to keep a clean sheet against Club America. Didn't have a ton of big saves to make. That was the final game of the quarterfinals. Rapids win it in penalties. Steffen was the last one to make his penalty for the Rapids. And then Luis Malagon, the reigning goalkeeper of the year in Liga MX, with one of the worst penalties you're going to see. A trickler dragged wide. Steffen doesn't need to make a save, doesn't need to do anything, just gets up, smiles. Rapids moving on to the semifinals where they're going to take on LAFC, who absolutely trounced the Seattle Sounders by a score of 3-0 up in the Pacific Northwest at Lumen Field. So hats off to Steve Cherundolo's group, who are cooking right now with absolute thermonuclear gas, which of course is provided by none other than the Frenchman Olivier Giroud, who's still looking for his first goal, but is starting to make some appearances off the bench. Meanwhile, in the other two quarterfinals, Philadelphia eked by Mazatlan by a score of 1-1 in regulation and then 4-3 in penalties, despite a red card to Ty Baribo, who ended up getting sent off. He got 2 yellow cards in the stretches of like 5 minutes. Kind of ridiculous, but Philadelphia hold on. Credit to Jim Curtin and company, who, despite some poor form in league play, they find themselves in a semifinal of Leagues Cup. And then the other other quarterfinal, was Columbus and NYCFC. Columbus gave up a goal in the first 14 seconds after Rudy Camacho gave it away. NYCFC scored, but then Cucho Hernandez answers with a beautifully headed goal right before half, and then it would go to penalties where Dewan Jones, the left fullback for the Columbus Crew, traded over from New England a couple of weeks ago, takes his penalties with his right foot, buries it. Columbus move on to the semifinals, and they will play host to the Philadelphia Union in a all MLS semifinal. So awesome stuff in Leagues Cup, but for Liga MX teams, especially coming off of only having one team last year, it gets even worse in the semis this year, not having a single team representing them. There are going to be some more heads to roll. Monterrey's coach got fired after they got bounced in the group stage, Fernando Ortiz, and I have a feeling that there might be some more repercussions for failing to compete with Major League Soccer sides, which apparently are now Big Brother in North America. So awesome stuff.
So, I mean, I say this as just sort of a fan of MLS. I really don't. I love talking shit about Liga MX. Like, there's more money down there. There's more fans down there. There's just more history down there. And so, we've always felt like the little brother. I still don't feel like this really does anything for us. The fact they got to come up here and play all their games up here, I think it's just I love it, the narrative of it. But I can't even bring myself to really talk shit about Liga MX based on this alone. I just can't do it.
Not based on this alone, but I do think that there have been some warning shots.
Yeah.
And Club America was still definitely a better team than Colorado on the night the other night. But
and it was basically a de facto
home
game for them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's fair. That's fair. We got to play some games down in Mexico. Is that coming, by the way? Is that not going to happen just because of the money and infrastructure and all that? I mean, they have infrastructure.
I have no idea.
Okay.
No idea.
All right. Well done anyway on the, what are we calling it? The Golpelo and Déjalo Minuto. All right. We will.
I wonder if that's a direct translation or if that's like actually what they call it.
I mean, Déjalo, I think
can't be.
It's just
a Google Translate. That's all
whatever. Okay, let's go to stoppage time. So Ivan Toney's best bets. Unfortunately, for the second week in a row, I only had 4 to give because we were taping late in the week. And again, I went 2 for 2, or 2 and 2, 2 for 4. So a big fat kiss your sister draw on the week. But listen, I'm ready to run it back. I got 5. We're back to the 5-a-side over trains. Let's get rich. Let's go do it. Here we go. 5-a-side starting on Wednesday. We will go with Jeff United Chiba, which is actually a 2nd division team in Japan, playing Consadole Sapporo, which is a 1st division team. This is in the Japan Cup. By the way, these 2 teams are ones that I have circled every week, and depending on who they're playing, I always bet on them, and they're playing each other. So it's basically fate. I got to bet on this one, and so do you. Let's go make some money. On Thursday, we're going to Chile. Nublense is hosting Union Espanola. Chile Primera. Friday, we're going to go to the championship. Sheffield United and Leeds. Both these teams have been shipping goals and scoring goals. We're going to the championship there on Friday. Saturday, MLS is back. And we got Portland hosting St. Louis City. Obviously, St. Louis City's defense is up in the air a little bit. And Portland is a scoring machine, and they get scored on plenty. So I like Portland hosting St. Louis City on Saturday. And then finally, we will go to Denmark on Sunday, where Vejle Bold Club is hosting Silkeborg. And Silkeborg has been killing it so far this season. They are on the road, though, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of goals in that game. So there you go. Wednesday through Sunday, 1 a day. Let's get rich over to 5-a-side. Mitch, what do you got for us?
Got both teams to score in 3 Premier League games. Spurs Everton, Palace West Ham, and Brighton United. Both teams to score in all 3 of those, plus 300.
Easy peasy. Tyler, what are we looking at?
All right, I'm going to try something new this year, and I'm actually going to have serious bets. I'm not going to have 5-team parlays that are obscene and typically don't have any sort of actual value to them. But this is going to be a parlay. I like Brighton to beat United, and I like both teams to score in the Palace and West Ham game. So that's my tapered back humane parlay for the weekend.
That's an adult parlay right there.
We're growing up.
Parlay. Okay.
Growing up. Move to the burbs. I'm starting to come of age over here. I'm having my gambling bar mitzvah.
You just hit your 8-month birthday in Cincinnati, where people turn into animals, and now you're talking about
I just got that dog in me, bro. I might give you a little reach around when I see you next time, Mitch, but just know that it's the Cincinnati and the boy. It's not the boy.
Turns into the villain.
It's not me, it's the city. All right, let's finish strong here. GOAWs, everybody's favorite segment. I got a whole raft of options here, so I won't take yours. Tyler, you start us off.
All right. My GOA goes to Chris Armas and the Colorado Rapids. I touched upon it briefly at the beginning of the show, but I mean, this group, just the full 360 of a turnaround. They're in 4th place in the Western Conference right now. This team is destitute. They don't have a lot of investment, as we talked about. And as tongue-in-cheek as I was going to be about the Kroenke entertainment sports fanatic group, this is a group that, is an MLS original team. Their fan base is passionate. They've been beaten down over the past several years. Robin Fraser did a decent job back in 21 and got them to playoffs and the whole thing. But this was going way, way, way downhill. They don't have the investment that other MLS clubs have. And for them to have gotten to a semifinal in Leagues Cup, they knocked out 4 Liga MX sides. 4. Leon, Juarez, Toluca, and Club America, the last 2 being incredibly impressive. So what Chris Armas has been able to do after the situation he experienced at Manchester United, coming off of unsuccessful stints at TFC, brief stint at Red Bulls, this has been really, really, really impressive from Armas, who, my couple of chats with him, he's a great dude. But Georgi Mihailovic, Zach Steffen, Cole Bassett, some U.S. guys that have really turned it up a notch and allowed this franchise to be able to succeed this year. So they're my GOA.
Captain and all-star Keegan Rosenberry as well. That's absolutely,
he was incredible. He was awesome against Club America the other night. Awesome.
He had one bad play. He had one
one bad giveaway in the first half. Yes. But other than that, he was incredible.
He was great. Okay, perfect. Well said. Great. Thank you, Tyler. You're the man. Mitch, what do you got for us?
I got 2 this week. First is English striker Oliver McBurney, who is a new signing for Las Palmas, and he's quite a white fella. And on the way out of the stadium, some fans traded for his jersey for a bottle of After Sun, like aloe cream, because they knew the man was going to need it. And that's how to endear yourself to a new fan base, is to go with cool shit like that. I'll send you the tweet after. It was really kind of funny.
Nice.
And then the other one is, I suppose it goes to the referee. I don't know the referee's name, but in the Sunderland game this weekend, there was an offside called on a corner kick.
And it was right. He was right. Was that not the right call?
No, he is not right. There, as every grade 9 referees knows, you cannot be offside on a corner kick.
I'm going to tell you,
regardless of where the ball is placed, or even if it's over on this side of the corner arc, and even if nobody's sitting on the goalpost, you cannot be offside on a corner kick. That's a law.
You're right.
So
I'm not
even
going to
if
argue with that.
positionally you are offside, you cannot be called offside. So for the referee to do that, that's wrong. And a reminder that even at the absolute highest level, referees can still fuck up, believe it or not.
Now here's my retort, my rejoinder to you on this play.
Okay.
So the play, because I saw the highlight of it.
Yep.
It was the kid that actually just got Jack Clark, who went from Tottenham to Sunderland. So Jack Clark was he was not taking the corner kick. He received the corner kick just a few feet away from the corner, right? Yep. He received that, and then he passed the ball to the corner kicker, and that guy was offsides. And I think the referee was actually correct in calling that. You got to go to YouTube. And
I have it. No, I have it bookmarked here.
You got to go to YouTube to see Mitch's face on this one, because I think it just clicked for you, and I think you're having second thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I was led astray by the caption on the tweet.
And all the tweets. I know what you're saying. I saw those too, and I was like, how do you
Okay, so this week's GOA goes to the referee that I mentioned before.
Just a brilliant call.
For being just a sharp fella, for really understanding the ins and outs of the laws of the game, and to me for letting tweets shape how I view football footage. Fuck. No, that's so. I'm watching it time and time again. Yeah, the corner kick taker was the one called offside.
Yes, I saw that too, and I was like, "How are you offside on a corner kick?" And then I thought about it for a little longer. I was like, "Oh, it's the guy that took the corner kick." I'm an
idiot. I am no better than all those fucking mouth breathers on Twitter. God damn it!
You just listen. You are, but you let them sway you. It's a learning moment. We had a learning moment. NBC had a learning moment.
You for bringing that to light for me too. I'm gonna be thinking about that for the rest of the day. As I was up on my high horse, I was like, I wouldn't.
You were.
I could referee in La Liga. Shut the fuck up.
Good. It's good to have a little humility in our life. Just like the NBC graphics coordinator, Aston Villa, by the way, not London. Yeah. That's Birmingham team.
Need a reality check every now and then.
There you go. Okay, perfect. That was actually maybe my favorite goal of all time.
Unacceptable.
I got a couple honorable mentions. Just a quick shout out, USL Super League. So they launched this week. I'm glad that we got more competition among the women's soccer. We got more jobs for women's soccer players. I don't know how this is all going to shake out, but I'm excited for there to be more teams and more leagues out there. We already talked about Yerson Mosquera, who's an absolute lunatic this week. Perhaps he should take, I don't know, some of the CBD treats that have been given to my dog, because he's got a little bit too much dog in him at the moment. Bayer Leverkusen up to their old tricks again. They just new season, same goddamn Leverkusen.
Goals before the 85th minute? No, thank you.
Don't need them.
I won't have any.
Just last minute, equalizers, and then they won. I don't know, it was some sort of German Super Cup, I think, on penalties over Stuttgart. So just same, different year, same old Leverkusen. Two other ones to give quick shout outs. You mentioned Jim Milner, or somebody did, James Milner, 23 years. 23 years he's played in the Premier League. That is insane. And he's like 7 years older than his own coach. Just a crazy situation. Erling Haaland, just a quick shout out. We didn't mention the Cucurella situation. The fact that, Cucurella, like, I like Cucurella, like the way he's handled that whole thing. I thought he made a joke out of it. It was kind of cool. But at the end of the day, he was going in on Erling Haaland, and Erling Haaland had nothing to do with the situation, right? As far as I know, anyway. He was not involved with the Euros. He wasn't there. It's just like they threw Erling Haaland in there. And of course, first game of the season, Chelsea and Manchester City. I know people were saying it wasn't Cucurella's fault, but listen, Erling Haaland grabbed the ball, took the ball, held Cucurella off, scored directly in his face. Cucurella is like literally staring at the ball going to the goal. I mean, it's just a perfect response by Erling Haaland. So he's not actually my go, though. My actual go is John Duran, because the way he, he's handled the situation like a pro, at least in the last couple days. Because I would not say he handled it well when he was doing the West Ham symbols on social media, when he was trying, it sounds like pushing for a move from Aston Villa to West Ham. But then 3 weeks later, he's playing for Aston Villa still against West Ham, the team he wanted to go to. He got on there at the end and he scored the game-winning goal. And I thought his celebration, where you kind of see he was like, sorry. Like, yeah, I mean, he didn't handle it well to begin with, but I think he handled it well. And the fact he scored a goal in this game, well played to John Duran of Chicago Fire fame. So yes, I think that's a golf claps or golf snaps moment there. And that's all we got. Thank you everybody for listening. You guys are the best. As I said, we're in the midst of sort of implementing some changes, dare I say improvements. So stay tuned for all that. Mitchell, Tyler, you guys are the best. Thanks for hopping on. We'll have Tommy and Mikey back again soon. And we will see you guys back bigger, better, faster, stronger next week. Take care, guys.